Hey everyone, on this episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast, we continue our segment on local bands that we've recently discovered ourselves. The first band we talk about is a band coming out of New Jersey called In Angles. They're very reminiscent of Lower Definition and have a really cool sound. We also talk about a band coming out of Richmond, Virginia called Heavy as the Head that lean more on the hardcore and metalcore side. We had a great time talking about these bands, and we're just super pumped that there's so many local bands that are just killing it right now. So thanks for jumping on, and let's open this pit up. Somebody hit somebody! Welcome to this episode of Pit Therapy Podcast. Dude, I don't know. Yeah, came in super hot there, then forgot what I was going to say. I hope it's recording because the little thing's not waving.
What's not waving?
Like the software thing, when you talk and you can like see is it showing it on your end?
I can see yours. You're
Oh,
moving.
all right. Well, anyways, welcome to this week's episode of the Bit Therapy Podcast. I'm Kyle and I'm here with Trevor. And yeah, we're back on for another one of these cool little episodes where we talk about local bands. And one of them, again, is probably not going to be that small of a local band, but we'll see. Anyways, how you doing, man?
Good, man. I'm doing good. Yeah, dude, it's gonna be weird because I posted like my little grid that I do every week of like bands that I've been listening to, and In Angles is one of the bands we're talking about, and like three people commented. They were like, "Oh, I love In Angles." Like,
Yeah.
I've never heard these guys.
Me neither. And
So
like if you and I haven't heard them, because like obviously we're the center of the universe, and that's a joke for anyone that doesn't know. But yeah, they must not be that big. So,
or
or
it's
we
very
just suck.
strange.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I like
It's
what you said
strange,
better.
right? It's
Yeah.
strange. We can't find a ton of information on them, right? So
Okay, we're spoiling this. Hold on, because we're going to talk a lot about these guys because they are super freaking good. And it's another one. Okay, yeah, I'm just going to shut up too. But, anyways, dude, how are you doing? How have things been?
I'm good, man. I'm doing good. We're good here. We've got family coming in town at the end of the week. One of my uncles is getting married. So, it's been busy around here, but dude, I've just been like, I went down a rabbit hole of just like probably 2010, like what I was listening to in that time. So it was a ton of the Wonder Years. It was a ton of For Today,
Nice.
like just like very like what you would consider like mainstream for the scene. You know what I mean? I was in a very like mainstream for the scene type of mood over the last couple weeks. So I've been listening to just a bunch of that kind of stuff in addition to these kind of things.
Yeah. So I had a really cool talk with my son, like he's still really young, but he's starting to like kind of get into this music a little more, right? Like he'll hear certain songs and like really like it and stuff like that. But we were talking a lot about bands that I listened to growing up, like pretty much what we do on this pod, right? And he was asking like, well, what do these guys sing about? Like, what's this stuff about? And so here I am, like explaining to my 8-year-old about like, the history of punk and how it developed into hardcore and, where like a lot of the, like what a lot of the content's about and like what it means and why it's important and, why it was important for me growing up. And then like for some reason I was on like an AFI bender. So I made him sit down and listen to like All Hallows EP and The Art of Drowning and like all this stuff. And yeah, dude, it was way cool. And then I also listened to like a ton of the bands we're talking about today because they're really good. And it was like music for whatever mood I was in too, you know?
Sure.
So like I just popped on both these bands like a lot and just listened to both of them because it's baller music that we're talking about. So
It's interesting, right? And it's another episode where we're talking about very different bands.
yeah,
So we're going to be talking about, the heavy hardcore stuff. We're going to be talking about, the math rock, swan core, if you want to call it
sure.
kind of thing. So it's been a ton of fun being able to do that and like trying to figure out like or I guess not figure out, but just like explore the different genres, not fully stick to hardcore, not fully stick to metalcore, doing like some of everything. And it's
Yeah,
interesting.
I think too that like, we've listened to a lot of music,
Yeah.
and I don't know that we're like very much surprised by anything. Like I don't think there's like new genres that are coming out that we maybe don't really know about or haven't listened to, or at least aren't like familiar with bands in certain genres. You know what I mean? And so like it's not very like a big reason why we do this segment and why we're talking about these bands is because even though we've heard 100 Swancore bands, like there's still good ones out there that stick out and it's worth talking about. And maybe we're the idiots here that don't know these guys, but like this is a
Yeah.
good band. Like In Angles is a good band that falls under the Swancore that's flooded with a bunch of super generic, crappy Swancore bands. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, they
So,
definitely
I mean,
stand out. And again, we're gonna
again, shut
get
up
into
because we're going to talk about it. So
it. We're
knock
gonna
that
get
crap
into
off.
it.
But yeah,
But no, I mean, it's what you're saying, right? Like, I feel like our musical taste is pretty diverse.
yeah,
For a day and age where hardcore is hardcore and metalcore are like the dominating force within the scene, it feels like. Tsunamis, Kubla Khans, metalcore, Fit for a King, The Ghost Inside. Like, there are some big, big names in genres that weren't popular a few years ago, kind of thing.
yeah.
And so it's it's fun to talk about all that stuff, but it's also fun to go back and we said it about, oh my gosh, dude, I'm so bad at this, right? But about names. We've said it about
Like interpersonal,
interpersonal. We've said it about Sucker
sucker
Punch. We've
punch.
like
Yeah,
anything that gives us like that nostalgia feel, anything where it's like that throwback to like this is why we were listening to these different genres, to these
right,
different subgenres and stuff like that. Those are bands that are catching our attention. So I mean, like
right.
we talk, you want to talk about Swancore, obviously Dance Gavin Dance, Will Swan. That's where the name comes from. A lot like Birds, Idola, all
Hmm.
those kind of bands. Those are like the headliners right now of who's doing it and like going on tour for this. But then there's bands like this who are doing it so freaking
Yeah,
well, but then they have their New Jersey flair. They have the post-hardcore feel. They have what you would expect coming out of the Northeast that just like it feels different and it feels, in
yeah.
my opinion, better than some of those big
I know
ones.
100%. And I mean, you just spoiled. I don't know that we're gonna have anything else to say about this band when we talk about it, but I mean, you're exactly right. There's like we've talked about this a lot on the podcast that like there's so much music out there, and this is like my issue with metalcore is it's all the same, it's all generic, it's all over produced, and then I think you lose a little bit of like the rawness of what it used to be. But then you start listening to a band like the other band we're talking about today with Heavy as the Head, and it's like, no, there's still people there that are doing the sound how it's supposed to be done. That's not overproduced. That's not generic. That's not boring. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And that's been the most fun about getting back into this music is it's like people still get it. It's harder to find the true to the like true to the definition or whatever of all this music. It's still there. It's just you have to sift through a lot more crap now
Yeah.
to get to it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, that's true. But
but
anyways,
speaking of crap, did you see the like Lorna Shore that tour that they
yeah.
just announced? Did you see the bands playing with them?
Bro, you're calling it crap. I might go see this.
Well,
I
are you going
might
for
go
Lorna
see this.
Shore?
To be honest, I love Will Ramos. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan of Lorna Shore, but I am a huge fan of Will Ramos. You can crap on him all you want, but when he can sit there and he can make it sound like the depths of hell or like a screeching goblin kind of thing, like that stuff is insane. It's really cool. I'm super interested, but it's Lorna Shore, Kubla Khan, who else was on?
Sanguisugabog.
Sanguisugabog, which I'll just call bog because I don't think that we're pronouncing that right.
It
But
is. It's Sanguisuga Bog. I saw a video of them
whatever,
showing
man.
how to pronounce it because I
It,
didn't know how to either.
they're just bog. So,
All right.
and then there's I don't remember who the other one was. It was another like deathcore band,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't
So
remember who it was, but
I don't remember. But yeah, I did see that, and I might go catch it. It's in October,
all
so
right. You let me know how it goes. I know they're coming to Dallas, but I'm not going. So
I'm sure you're not. Uh, but no, anything else? Any other shows or
I saw that Amur and crap, who were the other bands? There's a bunch of other bands that just got announced for that New England
oh
metal and
yeah,
hardcore festival.
there were some good ones.
Yeah.
Who got thrown up on that? It was I saw Peeling Flesh. I think that they were added to it. You're Zabalba.
Zabalba,
Zabalba
that's
got
right.
added.
Yeah. And then yeah, that's all I had for that one. But I mean I'm not going for Amur, but like Zabalba and all the other bands that are like a bunch of the other bands that are already going.
Oh, it's great.
Like I'm pretty sure with honors playing.
With Honors on there, No Cure's on there. There's a ton of
Yeah.
bands who I'm like big fans of right now who are really breaking out that are all on that festival. And I've got family out there. I'm like trying to figure out how to make it happen, but it's like 2 weekends before we go to Furnace Fest. I'm like, I don't know if I can swing both
Yeah.
kind of thing.
That's a lot.
So I did this weekend. My sister-in-law was playing the Kilby Block Party.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. So she's 26 Fix. That's her project, and they opened up the Kilby stage at like
Nice.
12:15, and they killed it. They did really good. They're on tour currently. They're on their way out to California coming up for it's called like Back to School Night. And I guess it's a big indie festival for like up and coming artists. I get it's a pretty big deal that she's on it from what I can gather. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. It's interesting to see someone else living out our dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, but someone who's actually talented, right? And
Yeah.
super proud of her. She does awesome. So it was fun to be there. And we had our kids. I had one of my kids up on my shoulders and we were dancing around and singing and stuff.
Cool.
And someone like grabbed us and they're like, do you like know the front person? And we're like, yeah, it's our sister-in-law, and we were
That's
able to
cool.
like be able to proud family moment. So it was fun.
That's cool. The last tour that I saw that I thought was interesting is did you see the Atreyu 20th anniversary for The Curse?
I did. Is it a tour or is it just a show?
I thought it was a tour and it's with 18 Visions and Death by Stereo.
See, I saw that get posted in California. I didn't know if it was just a one night thing playing it or if they
Oh, yeah,
were.
yeah, you're right. It is just a show. It's just one show. But still, that's dope with 18 Visions and Death by Stereo.
Is it going to be the same though
No,
without their vocalist being there?
it won't be, but it's still cool. I don't know. That was like a really early on gateway band for me. Like them and
That
Avenged Sevenfold.
I've told this story a bunch of times, but that was the band that you brought over and you said, dude, they say the F word like 3 times in here and you won't be able to hear it.
Yeah.
So no, that was a huge band for us. And I don't remember, it probably was The Curse, but it might have been Suicide Note and Butterfly Kisses.
I think it was that one.
Suicide Note?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. But
I don't know. I have to go back and look. I don't know. I haven't listened to them in a real long time.
dude, Bleeding Mascara, that's such a good song.
Now I'm gonna have
Bleeding
to go.
Mascara, The Right Side of the Bed. Like this album, it was awesome. I don't care what anyone says. Atreyu was the bomb back then.
They came out with like new stuff too, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean they're still actively playing, but
Oh yeah, it's 100% Suicide Notes and Butterfly Kisses.
yeah, dude, I freaking Atreyu was awesome. Good times.
Yeah.
Good times. Well, should we
Well,
stop
I
teasing
actually,
all this crap?
hold on. I actually wanted to ask you about this.
Okay.
What side of the Kendrick Lamar Drake drama are you on?
Yeah, I mean, it means nothing to me. I don't know anything about either artist. I don't follow rap. I don't follow pop
Oh,
culture that close enough. I will say the one argument Kendrick Lamar has is saying that Drake has ghostwriters writing his beef for him.
and that he's a pedo.
Listen, man.
I look, dude. I don't really care that much either. I just think it's super funny. I
Yeah,
also will
no,
say, like, whatever happened to the days of like, why don't they just fight?
I know, man. Like one of my favorite things I saw while the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef was going on is, do you guys remember about Amir and the Acacia strain? Get him backstage, throw
Yeah,
some fists, and call it good. You know what I
exactly.
mean? So
Yeah. I will say though that it is like you kind of miss this stuff, you know? You miss the beef. Sometimes like it's just I don't know. Cuz I feel the same way about like basketball, like the NBA and stuff. Like I'm tired of all these guys being friends. Like I want beef. Like I want teams to hate each other. I want there to be rivalries cuz it just makes it so much more entertaining, you know?
yeah,
And the
yeah,
rap music should be the same. Like these guys shouldn't be friends. That's boring.
yeah.
I don't want
I
anyone to like die, but you know,
no, I mean,
have some beef.
I agree. I think that'd be fun. We're not a sports podcast, but I do think that there is some of that stuff starting to come back with some of these players, like specifically Ant.
Oh yeah.
Like he's starting to cause some problems.
Did
It's
you see him?
awesome.
Did you see that game where he was like doing the Generation X, like suck
Yep.
it, fine, dude? I love that.
So the post game interview, him and Rudy Gobert are sitting there talking, and they're like, What were you doing?" He's like, "I was trying to get Rudy to do it with me, but he wouldn't look at me on the other end of the court."
Yeah, dude,
So it was awesome. That
love that.
stuff's fun, but
Yeah.
yeah.
All right,
Anyways,
we can get
time
into the
time to
we can
jump
get into the
in.
actual bands. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Well, we've teased them enough. So should we start with In Angles?
do it.
Okay. So In Angles started probably around 2013, 2014. It looks like they put out their first release Upstairs in 2014 because they just posted a few weeks back that it turned 10 years old. And as we were talking about, like these guys are on their social medias, they have them listed as mathy post hardcore. And then on some of their socials, they have pop punk listed there too. And so if you want like a quick description, swancore, right?
Yeah, I describe it as a mathy version of lower definition.
Okay, yeah. I was listening to Lower Def too because of what we were talking about. We were talking about Lower Def as we were starting to talk about In Angles. And I agree with you. So I wanted to ask you though, this mathcore, like mathy, prog rock, all of that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting to me. I like some of it. I don't like some of it. It gets a little bit out there and stuff. But the interesting thing about it is you can almost layer prog rock like over the top of different genres and have a different feel for it, right?
Yeah.
So, for your example, in Lower Def, that was a very like a heavy post-hardcore feel, right? Like more breakdowns.
Yep.
I'd almost getting towards metal even with
It's
Lower Def.
more lower definition is definitely more structured than
Yes.
these guys. Yeah.
Yeah. But then you have like the chaotic stuff in like the Chariot, or who are some of the other more like
You know another
chaotic
one
riff?
like Protest the Hero?
Protest the Heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah, bands like that where it's much more over like metalcore.
Mhm.
And then you've got like the like crazy stuff in like Polyphia, I think is what they're called,
Yeah. Or
where it's
like,
just
dude, freaking the Human Abstract.
the human abstract. Yeah.
Like these guys sound like the Human Abstract, but they sing.
See, but this is what's interesting is like, so you can layer it over the different things. For like Dance Gavin Dance and like true swancore, they layer it with like funk music.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
that's, in my opinion, that's what actually creates swancore is to put those like
Or
funk beats in
jazz.
there
Or
and
jazz.
jazz. You
Yeah.
don't get a ton of that within Angles. What you do get is the pop punk underneath,
Right.
which I feel like it set them apart, dude. Like I feel like that to me is what has caught me is like there's songs with pop punk beats underneath this prog rock, this math music kind of thing.
Mhm.
And it's awesome. It keeps me engaged, it keeps me entertained. It's a different feel for what a lot of bands are doing. And the Dance Gavin Dances, the Idolas, those bands, they have their moments of it. But this is like the first band I've listened to. And to be fair, I don't listen to a ton of Swancore. I'll be honest, I don't listen to a ton. I used to listen to a bunch of Dance Gavin Dance. That was really my extent of it. But this band separated themselves because of that pop punk underneath.
Yeah,
And it's a very interesting.
absolutely agree. When I first heard this, I was like, man, like I instantly made the connection with lower definition.
Yeah.
And like we've talked about this, this is just kind of how your and my brain works, right? Like we try to relate these bands to other bands that we know, whether there's similarities or not. Like that's just kind of how we do this. But they're like lower definition, but they are not a copy of lower definition, right? Because
Right.
there's a lot of times where you get that kind of like post hardcorey sound from these guys, but then they bust out into this weird mathcore riff that you're just like, that's different, you know, like that's kind of Dance Gavin Dancy, but it's still different. Like, yeah, that's what we were saying at the beginning is, you know, like we know Swancore, right? Like we just named off like six bands or Swancore, like Hail the Sun, Sandvar, like we know
Yeah.
Swancore, right? But at some point, all these Swancore bands just sound the same. They just sound like a ripoff of Dance Gavin Dance, honestly,
Right.
right? But these guys didn't feel like that, you know? Like
Right.
there's a lot of times where I'm like, man, that sounds like lower definition. But then you listen to it and you're like, yeah, but it's not lower definition. Like they still
Right.
like they're still different. And that's what's so cool about them is it's like they've taken these two kind of nostalgic sounds that you know we grew up on because we were in the heyday of Dance Gavin Dance and lower definition, right?
Yeah.
People don't really do that stuff anymore. Like they do Swancore, but it's lame. That's been overproduced and overdone. But like
I mean,
these
it's all
guys just
the same.
right. These guys just took such a unique sound, like a unique take on it that makes you like reminisce of older sounds that you grew up with, but still added their own flair that made it unique. And I've not been able to stop listening to these guys, honestly.
Agreed. Agreed. I feel a little bit weird every time I post like my 4x4s and stuff, and I have a band on there for like 4 weeks in a row. But these guys they're one of those
Yeah.
bands. They've been on there for like the last month, essentially, because like you said, I just like number one, we were doing this episode, so I've listened to a lot of them because of that. But also it's just music that I enjoy. So
Hmm.
like I was doing yard work today. I put on In Angles. I listened
Yeah.
to three of their albums while I mowed my lawn or whatever. But like a couple of their songs to just like point out, their best song in my opinion by far is Dead Era. It's
Oh
off
yeah.
Cardinal. It's the one that they have a music video for. This song is awesome. I feel like it's a very good snapshot of who they are, but it is much more post hardcore. This band or this song specifically, like if you want to say like lower def, this is
Yeah.
the song that's like, okay, there's lower def, right? The next song, Hamilton, though, it's like a minute into it, about a minute 20. That's where there's like a pop punk beat, and you can like start to hear some of that stuff. Their drummer's name is where did I type that out at? Joe Scala. And it sounds like he's a music teacher out in New Jersey. And he's
Okay.
in another band called the Invalids. Did you see this? So check out Invalids really quick. They are a very heavy math rock band.
Okay.
It's interesting, but it's a lot of like the changing times, a lot of you'll just have to
My
listen to it
my
and
brain doesn't compute this way.
yeah, it's oh, what's the band? Follow Troy. Very Follow Troy-ish. But his drumming style, it's interesting because that adds a whole nother level to what in angles can do because of how talented he is to be able to do that. They're a four-piece band. They've got two guitarists and their bass player. The bass and one of the guitarists are the vocalists. Could you hear that they were doing two vocals?
Yeah.
You could. I
Yeah.
didn't until I started to watch their music videos.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it took me a
Yeah.
minute.
No, I can hear it.
So,
Especially in Dead Era, when you really listen to it, you can hear like the switch offs and stuff.
yeah, yeah. After
But
I saw that they were doing that, it's very clear and apparent. But like the first time I just listened through, like I couldn't. Like I thought it was the same dude the whole time.
which even then, like respect because playing this stuff musically is probably not easy.
Right.
And to be able to sing and because they've got a few screaming parts, to be able to do
Yeah.
that while you're playing this is like mad respect,
And
you
it's the
know?
guitarist who screams.
Yeah.
So,
The song Dead Era, that part at like a hundred, not 100, like a minute 45 where the tempo changes and you get this like kind of like groovy part where
yeah.
because they just it's like I can't remember who else we talked about that did this, but it was like kind of a heavier, like lower def type sound. And then all of a sudden, just like instantly, they transition to this more like groovy part where even the cadence of his singing changes.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, man, that's so cool. Like, it's just
Yeah.
so cool that they can like, that they would be like technical enough to just, we're doing this part, we're doing this part, we're doing this part. And then now we're doing something completely different. That's a different
Right.
timing, different cadence vocally, the drumming completely changes. And I just was very impressed with it. Very impressed with it.
I agree. So, four albums, EPs for you to listen to. So, Upstairs was the 2014. They then come out with, excuse me, Cascading Home 2016. Did you listen to everything here? Like, what do you think about this one?
I briefly ran through this one. I spent more time on Cardinal and Shortfalls.
Okay. The song number 8, Driveways. Anyone who's listened to this knows I crap on like random instruments in here, like saxophone and stuff. But Driveways has a trumpet in it. And the song is slower. It just like, it's like soothing. His
This is
voice
like
sounds
a
like Johnny Craig.
this is like a Minus the Bear song.
Sure.
You remember Minus the Bear?
Yep. Yep. I do. But you listen to his vocals, and the first thing I thought is like, dude, that's like Johnny Craig singing on this kind of thing. Like, it's
Yeah.
awesome. But they throw some trumpet in there at about a minute 10. And it's just like very subtle and it's just like soothing. It's almost like coffee house music.
Yeah.
It's actually really cool
This is
kind of
like,
thing.
yeah, it's like jazz. Yeah, these guys are very much jazz influenced.
They are. And obviously, that's going to be what the prog rock stuff is kind of thing. You know what I mean?
I actually like the trumpet in it.
I do too. Like that's the thing. Like I crap on a lot of that kind of stuff, but in this one, I actually liked it. I thought
Yeah.
it worked really well. And then Shortfalls,
See,
Magnolia is such a good song.
yeah,
What were you
seriously.
gonna say?
No, yeah. I was screwing. I was gonna say that the last album has a little bit of a because I'm just like kind of listening to it a little bit. Cascading Home has a little bit of you. You can definitely feel the New Jersey scene influence there.
Absolutely,
It's like Taking Back Sunday almost sounding parts of it with like especially with the
absolutely.
double vocals because Taking Back Sunday used to do that a lot, right?
Yep.
So you definitely get more of the New Jersey feel in this album, which that's so cool that you can like listen to a song and be like, it's New Jersey.
Yeah.
you know?
No, for sure. Like there's so much where you're just like, dude, that's Northeast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like they did it very well. But then they kept true to themselves kind of thing. You know what I mean? They did make it different and Sucker Punch is another band that we just talked about from New
Yeah.
Jersey, right? They kept again the New Jersey post-hardcore feel in their music. These guys kept it. Like it's awesome to see these bands just like keeping that general area sound alive. You
Hmm.
know what I not that it's dead, right? Not that it ever died, but it's new music coming out where, like you said, it's like, dude, that's the New Jersey, that's the Long
Yep,
Island area kind of stuff.
absolutely.
So it's way cool. It's
You
way
know what's really
fun.
cool about these bands too, and I've always appreciated this with like lower definition as well, is how prevalent the like bass and bass pedals are.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like you don't like lower definition, you would never really hear like double bass unless it was like a breakdown or super unique chugging and things like that. And I get this feeling with these guys, like listening to Magnolia on shortfalls, like it's like very melodic. Then all of a sudden it's like, you know, and you get these like
Yeah.
really fast chugs in the double bass. And that's just like a very unique sound to this genre as well. And I've always really, really liked that.
Yep. Agreed. So, that's In Angles. It sounds like they're probably trying to release some stuff in 2024 from what some of their socials have kind of been putting out. So keep an eye on them. If you want to just kind of check out the members, really it's just two of them who looks like they have social medias. Joe Scala, he's the drummer. Like I said, he's also in that band Invalids. So check those guys out. And then the guitarist slash singer who screams is Tom Etz. He's tom.etz.music on TikTok. You can check him out. He's got a cover of John Mayer on there, which is phenomenal. Like the
Nice.
dude's just straight
Cool.
up talented kind of thing. So
It's not
it's
fair,
really
man.
cool. I know. I
These
know.
people are just so like just so musically talented, and here I am, just a freaking schmuck that can't do anything. You know?
It's so cool though that like they're sitting here like dropping like John Mayer, really cool acoustic stuff, but then they're putting out music in our scene. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah,
putting out post-hardcore stuff. Like these guys could probably be like writers for really
yeah,
big famous bands, and they choose to continue on with us. So it's
yeah.
awesome.
So
But
that's
yeah.
cool, dude. All right, so the band that I have is called Heavy Is the Head, and they are a hardcore slash metalcore band out of Richmond, Virginia. And I actually found out about these guys. Well, I had. What's interesting is we were already following them on social media. Again, I see ads pop up or I see bands post about other bands, and I go listen and like, yeah, I just we follow way more people than follow us because like we just find bands and follow them, you know. So there's
Yeah.
like all this stuff. But yeah, so like I had found these guys, but didn't really think much of it. Didn't know anything about them. Then when we released the Strike Face episode, they actually hit us up and we're like, dude, we're friends of Strike Face. You guys should check us out. You know, whatever. And I was like, okay, like that's cool. Reach out to us. We're idiots and nobodies, but all right. You know,
Right.
there's better people to reach out to, but they chose us. So I went and listened to them and I was like, man, these guys are good. You know,
Yeah.
it's like an old school feeling metalcore. Honestly, it reminded me of Returners from The Ghost Inside, like
Okay. I
that
get
type
that.
of metalcore. They're also like super, like they bounce around genres a little bit in some of their music, which I think is really cool, and we'll get into that. But yeah, like I said, from Richmond, Virginia. Don't think they've been around super long. Like their earliest music looks like it's from 2022. At least that's what's on streaming services. So
Yeah.
I think they've only been around for a little bit, but they're friends with the dudes from Strike Face, and any friends of theirs are friends of ours. So
Which shout out to Gooner. He totally what's the word?
like gave a stamp of approval.
Yep, gave a stamp of approval, said their vocalist Kendall is the man kind of thing. So,
Yeah,
little sneak peek, but we're actually having Kendall on coming up too. So
yeah.
that's going to be a ton of fun.
So tune in.
But you're absolutely right. Like it's old school like metalcore kind of feel, but like this is going to sound weird, but it's also just because of what they talk about. So heavy is the head, right? That comes from the old Shakespeare was heavy is the head that wears the crown,
Hmm.
which is like burden of responsibility. And so they have a lot of like social political messages in their
Yeah.
songs. It gives me like Rage Against the Machine vibes.
Yep.
Like the way that he like does his vocals and everything like that, it's a metalcore version of Rage Against the Machine,
Yeah,
is how I like felt about these guys.
that's
And
really
it was
cool.
awesome. Like they're really good. I really enjoy their songs. They've got what, 10 songs to listen to.
Something
So,
like that, yeah.
like I said, like we always say, take 20 minutes out of your day and you can listen to everything, right? But
Yeah.
it's awesome. They're definitely worth a listen.
So the first
Go
the
for it.
first song I heard from them was Deny, which
Okay.
I think is like their most played song on Spotify or whatever. It's the first one that popped up. And dude, it comes in like hard, you know?
Yeah.
Like it hits that breakdown in like 15 seconds in the song, just like hits super hard. And I was like, oh man, this is good stuff, you know? And like you said, I really appreciated his vocals because I struggle sometimes with metalcore when it's like really metal vocals. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But these are hardcore vocals, you know,
Right.
which I know some people don't like, but I like it because it feels more raw and real. It's not like a goblin scream or like a demon torturing
Dude,
someone's
don't be
butthole,
taking
you know?
shots at Will Ramos right now and talking about heavy in
I'll
this head.
take a shot at him any chance I get. But I really, really like his vocals because it's just straight in your face. I was also going to bring up like the politicalness of it. I appreciate that. You know, like we don't get into politics on this podcast, but I appreciate what they do, right? Like that's what this music is for. You know, like if you've got a message, if you've got something you believe in, like this is how you express it. And I love that. It's not surface level music. Like it's a message and it means something and I respect that they're doing that, you know?
Well, and I think that what is important about that is there's a passion behind it, right? You don't write this type of music with this type of vocals to not have a passion behind what you're
Yeah.
saying because it just feels like a cop out. Like if you're going to do that, you're going to be found out really quick and you're not going to make it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So to be able to put that out there and put their stamp behind it, like it means something. We're not a political podcast. Like we don't need to get into politics or anything, but just like the fact that people will have a message and stuff like that. That's what's cool about hardcore. That's what's great about it. And something that I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So,
That's where like the root of it comes from, you know?
right,
That's literally punk was founded on that
right.
idea, you know, and hardcore's an adjacency of punk. And, you know, again, I think with some sub genres of this stuff have kind of lost their way with some of that. And it's just become surface level music. But I'm glad that there's, again, still bands that like there's millions, there's not millions, but there's a lot of metalcore bands out there that just are going through the motions and just playing generic metalcore. But there's bands, if you sift through the rest of that are doing it the way it's supposed to be done. And I think these guys are one of them, you know?
Yeah, agreed. So the first song that I heard was Dirty Feet, their
Oh, yeah.
latest single. And coming in as fast as it is, it's fast hardcore, right?
But the intro to that, like, immediately made me think of The Ghost Inside,
Sure. Sure. I get that. But
which is good because those were the good Ghost Inside albums, not before they sold out to the man, you know?
so what I really like about this song though is as fast as it is though, the vocals aren't as fast.
Yeah.
Like he's not like out there like rushing through things.
Right.
Like he's just very concise in what's being said. And it's a cool tempo between everything. And I know there's a lot of songs like this, but that's what actually stuck out to me in terms of like overall stuff. High Pressure, that's the EP you're talking about that has Deny on there.
Yeah.
Foundations is a great song on there. But I really got on into No More Time, their very first EP.
Okay.
Chapters, dude.
Yeah.
Chapters is a freaking good song.
Yeah.
And it's just like fast, it's aggressive. These guys, like, they just came out so these 8 songs, 9 songs, they're just it's like fast, it's in your face, it's really
Uh-huh.
aggressive. I'm really interested to see what comes next from these
Right.
guys.
because like I kind of alluded to before, they bounce around genres a little bit on some of these songs. Like I think it's Riches is like just a straight up thrash song,
Yeah.
you know? Like I don't even know if they really break down in it. Like it's literally just a fast riffy song. I think, is this a song that has the solo? Maybe it's not, but they have another song where it's like this extended guitar solo, you know, and it's like that's very just normal, like metal esque of you to do that, you know, and it's so they bounce around, and then like Deny, the first song I heard, like it's just a straight up metalcore, almost beatdown song, you know, like it's
Right.
there's a heavy breakdown with huge bass drop, and it's just cool that they can like stretch themselves like that. And I think you can really appreciate how good of musicians these guys are as well, that they can
Yeah.
do that, you know?
Yeah. Sounds like they've not the band themselves, but the members have been around the scene for a long time, from what I could gather. Their first like where they were touring, I don't know if it was their first, but they actually played some shows with Pure Bliss, who we talked
Okay.
about up in New York.
Yeah.
And then they traveled around with Strike Face like we talked about a little bit. So, they're making their
They
way around.
well, and they also are going to open for the Maylene show,
Yep.
which is,
Which
I mean, that's huge, right? Like that's huge. So,
right,
and
right.
that's like a really cool show for them to play too, because you know Maylene slays. So
Agreed. Agreed.
yeah.
I'm going to be interested to talk to Kendall when we do and find out some of the other bands around the area. I was like going through like Spotify and stuff, and like if you look at Salt Lake, if you go and look up Absolved and stuff, the recommended artists are other Salt Lake hardcore bands. It's not a ton of hardcore that pops up in Richmond. There's a few bands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Mean Jesus is one that pops up. Trying to think who else. A lot of them though were Contact. I think they were a Virginia band. Yeah, Richmond hardcore. But a lot of it was like post-hardcore
Okay.
and stuff.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of like another heavy as the head type of band in the area. So
I'm not surprised. Like geographically, Richmond is like closer to the more rednecky areas, right?
is
Maybe
it?
I don't. Is it? Maybe
I
I'm.
don't think
Look,
so.
dude,
Was
it's amazing
dude
I've made it anywhere in life because I don't know.
like don't listen to Kyle when he talks about geography. Like, let's be honest. Uh I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
dude.
think so. No.
Yeah, it's like
No.
right outside Shenandoah National Park, which is
Bro,
like part of the Appalachians, right?
you're getting close to like DC and stuff where like punk is like super relevant,
Well,
Like
hardcore, I think, started in
yeah,
DC.
exactly. Hardcore punk, all of that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
but you know what? Like,
You're like
I
an
mean,
hour
a few hours.
outside.
Yeah, but a few hours drive could be completely different scenes. You know?
I get that, right? It's just interesting to me that, and maybe this is part of why they're traveling as much as they are, to make it all the way down to Charleston to Strikeface, or to go all the way up north to Syracuse area to be with Pure Bliss and stuff. Like they are making the effort to go and play with heavier hardcore bands.
Yeah.
And that's really dope. So yeah, I mean, that's awesome. They're on the Maylene show. This is another band that, like Pure Bliss, I'd love to see get picked up on at least a decent package in, you know, 10 stops out east or something like that.
Right.
I think it'd do a huge world of good for these guys.
Yeah. And they're good enough too.
Yeah.
You know, they're good
So,
enough. The production on these albums, which I don't like, they're on GGT records. I've never heard of that, but so you can tell that it's well produced and stuff. So
yep.
they're good enough to go do tours like that. I've seen clips of their shows. Seems like people show up for them and get wild. So, you know, it's a cool band. It's a nice change of pace. I'm glad to see that there's, people that are still carrying the torch for metalcore, that it's not all Will Ramos. So
Such a freaking hater, man. But
Yeah.
No, for sure. Well,
And tune in because he's going to join and he's probably going to freaking bash you and me for how bad our takes are on any of this stuff, but I'll accept it, you know?
you know what? Absolutely. I 90% we say is just crap. So,
Yeah. Well,
like,
who
let's
are
be honest.
we? You know, nobody even knows us. So, yeah.
But for
But
real.
but with that, if you guys know local bands that you want us to talk about, hit us up, you know?
Yep. 100%. So, next week we are hopping back on a big band. It was your pick. We're going Shai Halud, right?
Yeah, in honor of Dune 2 that just came out.
Exactly.
So,
So, and
and
then
I have Worms. Just kidding.
Josh will be back with us. So, no, that'll be fun. Maybe we should ask Kendall if he listened to Shai Halud and get his thoughts on it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, what? Florida's not that far from Virginia, right?
yeah.
That was a joke. I do know that much
Come on,
geography.
bro. Come on, bro. Apparently not, man. Like Virginia, that's like right next door to Utah, right?
Yeah, pretty much. It's a big door, but yeah, time travel,
All
aliens.
right. Well, anything else on this one?
No, we should
No.
end.
All right. Well,
Okay,
catch you next week.
see ya.
Peace.